Hello and welcome back to another episode of Thoughts Per Episode, Bleach 1000 Year Blood War Edition. After the last few episodes, we finally settled back into the kind of... I don't know, this, the pacing is actually kind of absurd, which I'm about to talk about, but we've settled back into, the storytelling is, every day, it's not like a major moment anymore. It's back to standard kind of, camera on character, camera on other character, and there's some comedic moments and stuff. We're past the special part is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, as I mentioned, the pacing of this episode feels off purely because I feel like if this was being made 10 years ago as just a natural extension of the original anime, some of the things which were covered in this episode would take multiple episodes to get through, because it's new characters and character interactions, and you've got Kon and everything going on there. I think they actually cut out some scenes with Kon, which I'm not exactly complaining about. It really feels like they're just trying to rush through the Zero Squad introduction to get back to the good stuff, And while I do appreciate this breakneck pace, because I was a little concerned going into this episode that it would be a bit of a come down, I also think that there was room for them to kind of I don't know, there's been some stuff said about expanding on the manga material, and we've seen some of that, and it's been great. I would like them to have focused maybe a little bit longer on the aftermath of the devastation of Soul Society by the Quincy's. You've got a couple of frames, more than frames, but you've got a couple of shots of Ichigo looking a little bit lost in the hospital as... patients are being rushed into care around him and stuff, and a few people are trying to get his attention for various reasons, but it didn't feel as Ichigo doesn't seem as harried as he could have been, if you know what I mean. In that situation, he didn't seem as lost as he could have been. Rukia does mention that he's putting on a brave face, of course, because there's something wrong with him, because obviously he's just found out that he's part Quincy. But we could have done with a little bit more time on the damaged Soul Society, a little montage or something, even if it wasn't in the manga. That being said, part of me also thinks that with the whole sad Ichigo after losing and being too weak to protect people thing has been done before, so maybe it is good we didn't linger too long on that. I don't know, I'm of two minds. I'll be curious to see what anime-only viewers think of this episode, because there was certainly a lot of information which got dumped, and characters which got teased. But as someone who already knows the events of this story, it felt like they were carting out these scenes as quickly as they could. In one episode... Okay, this will be our counting through the episode of events. In one episode, we get Unohana and Isane talking about the head captain's last orders and what they're supposed to be doing. We see Ichigo's aftermath and checking up on Rukia and Renji, learning that Urahara and Co are okay. We learn that a broken Bankai can't be fixed, although, interestingly, I guess it's not really interesting, it's just either an oversight or something that was cut for time, but they don't talk about previous people's Bankais who have been broken like they do in the manga, because there are a couple of exceptions. So I wonder if anime-only viewers are going to be like, hey, but what about Ikaku's Bankai? We get the entire introduction of Squad Zero and some of the interactions between various captains. Oh, and before that, sorry, I skipped over the whole mourning over Yamamoto thing. They've got his broken sword there, which contrasts interestingly with Ichigo's broken sword. I actually thought it was Tensa Zangetsu they were all standing around for a moment. I was like, wait, that doesn't feel right, and then I realised. But yeah, we've got Kon popping up at random because we deleted a couple scenes of him, and suddenly we've got a Zoom call with Urahara. Well done, Soul Society, you learned how to do Zoom calls. When you think about it, this was written 10 years ago, right? Video calls were a thing, absolutely, but they were slightly more sci-fi than they are now, but yeah, anyway. We've got the tease of a future character, which I think was way more obvious than it was in the manga, but just in case anyone didn't pick up on it, I won't mention who it is. I did like the Chad and Inoue in the background trying to sedate him with maracas and stuff. There was a lot of comedy in this episode. It follows the very, tropical, is that the way of saying that? It follows the trope of a really dark period of a story being followed by some lighthearted humor to get us all smiling again. We are then whipped over to Shukaku's place, put in the cannon and shot up to the Zero Squad royal quarters. Within the span of about a minute, she gets 2 lines, and due to this, the revelation of Ganju and the Fullbringer squad there, yes, that was the Fullbringer squad, you blink and you'll miss them, but they were there. It felt very like, wait, what? Hey, okay, they're gone, we're moving on. This episode was going so fast, I was wondering if they wouldn't stop to talk about the Soul Key, but they stopped to talk about the Soul Key. I guess they figured it was kind of too important to leave out based on Aizen wanting to make one that entire time. And then before we've even really had a chance to take in the setting, we're being carted off to one of the castles for a quick bath and hot springs, and then the episode just kind of abruptly ends. There's no real structure to it. It really does feel more like it both feels like an old style Bleach episode, in that it's not as heavily like directed and storyboarded. It feels like not as much importance is placed in every moment, but at the same time it feels like Bleach on crack, where it's like this would have been like 6 episodes of the old anime. Kind of sad they cut out the joke where Rukia's bum floated up and they were like, ooh, a peach. But anyway, much like this episode of Bleach 1000 Year Blood War, I am going to keep it short. I mean, it was no shorter than any other episode, but I mean, this, you know what I mean. Thank you for watching this episode. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Maybe I'm overdoing the pacing thing a bit, but again, because I'm not an anime only watcher, I know where the story goes. Maybe to an anime only watcher, this episode was jam-packed. Leave a like if you liked the video, hit subscribe if you want updates on more videos, some Bleach related, some not, because I'm bad at finding a niche and exploiting it for views. See you next week!